Hi friends! Welcome to my second video. Thank you so much to all those that tuned into my first video. It really means a lot to me. I am very excited to keep going with this channel, and I think the first video was a really great start. Today I wanted to continue my sewing journey. I mentioned in the last video that I had only recently learned to sew. I'm finding it to be a lot of fun. I think it might be one of those ADHD hobbies that I actually stick with. Or at least I hope so, because it's really fun for now. But for today, I want to try it with an actual pattern. I've made a couple of items with patterns before. I've made some dress pants, and I made my boyfriend a button-down shirt.
Oh, wow.
Let's just say I can't do buttonholes for the life of me. Hopefully that gets easier. So it's this pattern from the 1970s, McCall's 5186. It is not a reprint, it is actually from the 1970s. I found it from Backroom Finds, which is an online store that sells vintage patterns and vintage fabric. It is actually owned and operated by Stephanie Canada here on YouTube. And I was watching some of her videos and I found it fascinating how well she uses vintage patterns. And she mentioned that she had Backroom Finds. And so I went on there and looked and found so many patterns from the 1970s. So I got a couple besides with just this one. And I also got some cool 1970s fabric.
Ooh.
Which I hope to make a vest out of from a 1970s pattern. But for today, I just want to try out the simple shirt. Kind of stick with something I'm a little more comfortable with and try it out because I've never used a vintage pattern. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm very excited. I can't wait to use this vintage pattern, and I'm excited to bring you guys along with me. I don't have one with me, but grab yourself a cozy drink and let's go ahead and get started. All right, step one. Done. Cozy drink acquired. Now on to step two, which is substantially more difficult. So I need to cut out the pattern. My plan is to use view C right here and the top specifically, but I think that's still gonna be a lot to cut out even though it's not a dress. Woohoo! Yeah, a lot to cut out, yeah, okay. So it looks like they use the same pattern piece for the front and the back. It's cut on a fold, and they change the length of it depending on which view I'm doing. I think I might want to do one of the longer views in the future, so I'm going to cut out that piece as the long length and then just fold it for the shorter length. Hopefully I can fold it well. It also looks like I'll need interfacing. I only recently learned one is way stiffer than the other, so my boyfriend's collar on his shirt that I made, it's very limp. I have stronger interfacing now. I think that will probably be useful for the interfacing of this shirt. All right, so I think all that's left is to get started. So here we go. Oh no, try again. I started off by trying to mark the pattern to my sides, but I gave up on that immediately. Because I wanted to use the longer version of the pattern later, I made sure to fold this nice and neat and pin it up. I decided that as a beginner sewer, it was best to try sewing and figuring out what I'm doing with fabric that didn't really matter and didn't really cost a lot. So I decided to get my fabric from the thrift store, sheets, curtains, etc. That's where I got the fabric for the two other items that I made. So I feel comfortable with that. I only recently bought actual fabric from a fabric shop, not a thrift store. And that was only because of encouragement from my boyfriend. So for today, I'm still gonna stick with what I know and go with a thrift store fabric. What I have is this fitted sheet. That'll make it a little harder to use, but I think if I just cut that out, I'll be able to see the full size. And it seems like it should still be pretty large, and I should get plenty of fabric for this pattern. One of the reasons I'm not doing the dress. After becoming a fashion icon, I laid out the entire sheet and it gave me a lot of fabric to work with. I was feeling a little lazy this day, so I decided not to pin the pattern and instead use these pattern weights that I had made. Not the best practice, but it actually worked pretty well. I cut out the rest of the pattern pieces as a floor troll and then moved on to the inner facing. Fun fact, I couldn't actually see myself in the mirror to get this shot. You're welcome. I thought threading the machine would be a cool shot, but my goodness is that difficult to do one-handed. Please enjoy all the jump cuts to make it happen. After triple checking some measurements, I started off by gathering the front pieces to fit to the yoke. Pin that. And sew it to complete it. Next up was the collar, which had a lot of complex turns and corners, but I think I actually did it pretty well. Okay, quick interruption. I'm in the middle of sewing this yoke facing, and I've just never seen anything like this, even when I did my boyfriend's shirt. So I thought it was very weird, and I wanted to like show you guys more closely. Front pieces have these points that come out towards the middle, and they both have it. And so I was wondering how that was possibly going to work. And then they had me sew this yoke facing on. And I think what's gonna happen is the collar's here. It's gonna like fold over the collar like so. And then I think you then are going to turn it in, and it's kind of gonna finish the edges of the inside of the collar, I think. And then that's gonna make these look more right. I don't know. I'm pretty confused. I'm just trying to follow the instructions and I think this is correct. But I wanted to show you because I thought that was very interesting because it kind of looks like a weird apron thing at the moment. We're just gonna keep going and hope for the best. I used pinking shears on every edge because this fabric was fraying so much. Hopefully that at least slows down the inevitable fraying. I suppose that's what I get for using a bedsheet for a shirt. And here's that final yoke facing. It needs to be tacked down still, but it makes a lot more sense once sewn. As you can see, I did really well on this side with lining up the edges, but this side was a little rough. Alright, onto the sleeves, and my concentration face has returned. I was fortunately able to take off this piece on my sewing machine and the sleeve fit right in, but if the sleeve were any smaller, I would have had problems. I'm going to be completely honest here. I tried on that first sleeve and was so defeated by the fit. I took some time away to play with the pups, which definitely helped. Hi. I pushed through my frustration and finished up that final sleeve. I'm very close to finishing, but all that's left is like the little detail parts. So ignore my really professional dress form. So I still have like this to tuck in, and I need to do the buttonholes, which, as I mentioned, I am really bad at buttonholes. Let's just say I can't do buttonholes for the life of me, and I need to just finish up the sleeves. So I think I'm gonna do all of those off camera, and then I'll see you for the reveal. All right, so there we have it. Quite an adventure. Took me a lot longer than I was expecting it to, but I'm really proud of it in the end. There was a moment where I was thinking this is going to look very old lady, especially with the fabric choice, and I think it definitely could lean that way. I think depending on how I dress it up, and if I like lean into the 1970s aspect of it, like that last outfit that I did, I just had that pantsuit laying around, and I think kind of added a fun little whimsy like 1970s look for it. Overall, I'm very proud of myself. This is the second shirt I've made. It's one of the more complex patterns I've done. There was a lot of like gathering and ruching and a lot of folding over to create different things, and the yoke was very confusing. So I'm proud of myself. There are definitely issues with it. I will not pretend that it is perfect. It's too tight along the back, so I can't really like muscle out. Not that I'm going to, but I definitely can't, or it will rip. The hem is pretty tight. I should have done like a looser stitch because it kind of feels like it comes down and then kind of. I think that the buttonholes are okay. For how nervous I was about buttonholes, I think they're actually pretty good. 7 buttons in total, and I only had to unpick one of them, which for me is very impressive. When I did my boyfriend's shirt, I had to use different sized buttons so that it would all fit in the holes that I created. The buttonholes that I created, they were that bad. And one of them, when I was like slicing it open after creating the buttonhole in my machine, I accidentally sliced through it. And so it was substantially longer, and then I had to like restitch it together, and it's a mess. So having to only undo one buttonhole, very proud of myself for that one. So like I think I'll wear it every now and then, but I think this was also just really good practice, and that's why I like to get the fabric from the thrift store, so I have the ability to just practice without feeling too bad about the fabric that I'm using, and I don't want to contribute to more waste. I want to make the long dress at some point. It was really fun, but I need to work on my ability to sew in straight lines, because that like here to the ground, that's kind of crazy. I'm just so proud of myself because this is not an easy pattern, and I learned to sew only months ago, and I really just threw myself fully at it. And that's kind of what this YouTube channel is for, is to just try new things. I've always wanted to try new things, and I just haven't. Experiencing a new thing that I've been wanting to do for years and actually doing it. A couple months later, I'm already here. I think that's really cool. So I encourage you to try something new. And if you have been wanting to try something and you've just been scared to do it, too scared to fail, you're not alone. That holds me back all the time, and I am kind of sick of it. That's why I'm just proud of myself for finally doing it. I know that you can too. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. It was kind of a brain fart. There we go. Okay, I'm on words. That was corny as